So welcome everybody. We'll begin by saluting the shrine. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Dhammaya.
Namo Dharmaya.
Namo Sanghaya.
Namo Sanghaya.
Namo Namah.
Namo Namah.
Om.
Om. Om.
Okay, so welcome everybody to tonight's puja. My name is Padmasagara, and some of you might have been expecting to see Padmavajra sat here leading tonight's puja. We did advertise that originally, but Padmavajra has given a talk here today and a question and answer session which lasted for 2 hours. But then he also gave another talk this afternoon to the LBC in London with a question and answer session. So about 4 hours of heavy dharmic output from Padmavajra. So he's having a well-earned rest this evening, and I'll be leading the puja instead. So Padmavadra's not with us, but the majority, I think everybody else in the community who's here at the moment is here in the shrine room with me. So great to have their company, and also everybody's company online. So we're celebrating Dharma Day today. And we began this morning at 7 a.m. and we were joined, I think, by about 70 people for morning meditation. And then for the talk at 10:30 we had 230, something like that. And then this afternoon about 60 people for a Sutra recitation and meditation. And now we've got 90 people joining us for the puja. So it sounds like we might have had a core group of about 60 people out there somewhere joining us, with other people coming and going for other events. So that's absolutely fantastic. And we did want to open up the whole day for everybody across the Triratna world. So I'm just really pleased that so many people have been able to come and join us for the day. So I did just want to say a few thank yous just to begin with, and starting with everybody who's joining us online. I just wanted to thank you for participating in the day with us. It has felt really special, and when we've been doing online events, we've noticed that it does bring something into Padmaloka. In a sense, it does feel like people are here with us, not physically, but somehow still here with us. And it changes the atmosphere here, and it just gives us a really strong sense of purpose, and a sense that what we're doing here is having ripple effects and beneficial effects more widely. So thank you to all of you for coming and participating. For those of you who asked questions earlier in our Q&A, thank you for those, very stimulating. And thank you as well for the generous donations that have been coming in throughout the day. And we did put this day on free of charge. We welcome donations and still do, so if anybody participating in the puja wants to make a donation, then that would be most welcome. And you'll find a link below this video. So thank you to all of you. I know he's not here, but I just want to thank Padmavajra again for his fantastic talk for us this morning, and the Q&A session that he did with us. Really wonderful to hear him in full flow this morning, talking about the Buddha's first discourse. And I'd like to thank our technical team. So they're all sat behind the camera. You won't be able to see them on YouTube, but that's Arvid, Satyakirti and Chris. So this has been a Padmaloka first today in terms of live streaming on YouTube, and as far as I can tell it's gone really seamlessly, and that's credit to those guys and their preparation and just their willingness to explore new modes of communicating the Dharma. So thank you to you three guys there. And also thank you to the shrine keepers. So I think most of the community were involved in some way or another, putting the shrine together and decorating the stupa outside as well. So really fantastic shrine full of Padmaloka flowers all out of the garden. And we've got various images on the shrine. You might be able to see it on your screen. So we've got a Rupa of Padmasambhava, we've got a Dharma chakra, and then we've got an image of Bhante on the left, and then an image of Bhante with his 8 teachers on the right. And ultimately, I suppose we must extend the biggest thank you to Bhante and his teachers for giving us the greatest gift of all, which is the Dharma that we've been celebrating today. And of course, above them, in full glory, we've got the Buddha Shakyamuni. And just thank you to the Buddha and all the great masters throughout the ages for transmitting the Dharma to us so that we can celebrate it today and benefit from it in our lives. So we can do the puja with that in mind, a sense of gratitude to our teachers, to the teaching, to each other as spiritual friends and as a spiritual community. Okay, so in terms of the puja, we'll do the Sevenfold Puja this evening, and we're going to have 2 readings during the puja. So the first reading, Sutra is going to read to us from the Pali Canon, and it's the episode immediately after the Buddha's enlightenment, where he's decided to go forth into the world to communicate the Dharma. And he has that meeting on the road with Upaka. And we're going to hear at first the Buddha's encounter with Upaka and his communication to him. So we get an example here of what Padmavajra described earlier as the Buddha's lion's roar. So really declaring his attainment and what he's achieved. But also because it's the encounter with Upaka, who, as Padmavajra said, communicates with the Buddha, but then just says, well, may it be so, friend, and walks off, takes this by-road, and doesn't quite disappear, does he, Sutra, from the Pali scriptures. He does come back later, but at that point, he hasn't seen the Buddha, basically. And I think that's a nice reminder for us at the beginning of the puja that we need to pay attention, don't we? We need to be present while we're doing the puja in order to hear the communication of the Dharma contained in it. So let's be present in the puja, not checking out or taking a bypath and missing the point of it all. So we'll have that reading first. We'll go into the Sevenfold Puja. Refuges and precepts we'll do in unison. And then after entreaty and supplication, we'll have the second of the readings. And it follows on immediately after the Buddha's encounter with Upaka. So this is where the Buddha does go and find the 5 former companions in the deer park and has that interaction with them, communicates the Dharma to them. So we're going to hear that. And this afternoon, when we had the sutra recitation, the Sakavati Vyuha Sutra, I was talking just beforehand about the need to use the imagination when we listen to the sutras and the suttas, and actually create the images that we're hearing about. And I think we can say the same here. We need to create the image of the Buddha meeting the 5 ascetics in the deer park, tuning into their sense of wonder at being in the presence of the Buddha, their surprise and the sparking off of their imagination. And the Buddha then obviously went into an intense communication with them, went into retreat with them. So what was that like? We have to kind of get a sense of that as we're listening. and in that way we're preparing our mind for the communication of the Dharma, just as the Buddha was preparing their minds for the communication of the Dharma. So we'll have that reading and see if it sparks us off. Hopefully it will, and prepares us. And then towards the end of the puja we'll have the Padmasambhava mantra after transference of merit and self-surrender. And two reasons for having the Padmasambhava mantra. So one is that obviously we're here at Padmaloka, and Padmaloka is one of the names of Padmasambhava's pure lands. And the second reason is that Padmasambhava really is the embodiment of spiritual transformation. And we've heard the Dharma today, we've had a strong presentation of the vision of the Dharma, but we do need to transform ourselves in accordance with it. So in chanting the Padmasambhava mantra, we could see that as a declaration of our own aspiration to transform ourselves in the light of the Dharma. We don't just celebrate the Dharma from afar, we actually take it into our lives and we practice the Dharma, and therefore we follow in the footsteps of the Buddha and the great teachers. So we'll have the Padmasambhava mantra, then we'll have the concluding mantras, and at the end of the concluding mantras, time permitting, we'll have a short period of just sitting and finish, or aim to finish, about 9:15. And the only thing I missed out was that we'll also have the Shakyamuni mantra after worship. And at that point the Padmaloka community will come up and make offerings to the shrine. And you at home, in front of your shrines, I imagine, would also, I'd suggest you also make offerings of some kind at that point. Okay, so just a couple of minutes to settle, and then we'll begin the Sevenfold Puja. So when Sarita's ready, we can have the first reading.
The Blessed One thought, "To whom shall I teach the law? Who will understand this law?" Then he thought, "The bhikkhus of the group of 5 who attended me while I was engaged in my struggle were very helpful. Suppose I taught the law first to them." Then he thought, "Where are the bhikkhus of the group of 5 living now?" And with the divine eye, which is purified and surpasses the human, he saw that they were living at Benares, in the deer park at Isipatana, the resort of the seers. The Blessed One stayed on at Uruvela as long as he chose, and then he set out to go by stages to Benares. Between the place of enlightenment and Gaya, the monk Upaka saw him on the road. He said, "Your faculties are serene, friend. The colour of your skin is clear and bright. Under whom have you gone forth? Or who is your teacher? Or whose law do you confess?" When this was said, the Blessed One addressed the monk Upaka in stanzas. "I am an all-transcender, an all-knower, unsullied in all ideas, renouncing all, by craving ceasing freed. And this I owe to my own wit, To whom should I concede it? I have no teacher, and my like exists nowhere in all the world, with all its gods, because I have no person for my counterpart. I am the teacher in the world, without a peer, accomplished too, and I alone am quite enlightened, quenched, whose fires are all extinct. I go to Kashi, city now, to set the wheel of law in motion. In a blindfold world, I go to beat the deathless drum. By your claims, friend, you are a universal victor. The victors like me, Upaka, are those whose taints are quite exhausted. I have vanquished all ideas of evil. It is for that I am a victor. When this was said, the monk Upaka remarked, "May it be so, friend." Shaking his head, he took a side track and departed.
The Sevenfold Puja. Worship. With Mandarava, blue lotus and jasmine.
With Mandarava, blue lotus and jasmine.
With all flowers pleasing and fragrant.
With all flowers pleasing and fragrant.
And with garlands skillfully woven.
And with garlands skillfully woven.
I pay honour to the princes of the sages.
I pay honour to the princes of the sages.
So worthy of veneration.
So worthy of veneration.
I envelop them in clouds of incense.
I envelop them in clouds of incense.
Sweet and penetrating.
Sweet and penetrating.
I make them offerings of food hard and soft.
I make them offerings of food hard and soft.
And pleasing kinds of liquids to drink.
And pleasing kinds of liquids to drink.
I offer them lamps encrusted with jewels.
I offer them lamps encrusted with jewels.
Festooned with golden lotus.
Festooned with golden lotus.
On the paving sprinkled with perfume.
On the paving sprinkled with perfume.
I scatter handfuls of beautiful flowers.
I scatter handfuls of beautiful flowers.
Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha.
Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni 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 Shakyamuni Swaha. Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni 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 Shakyamuni Swaha.
Salutation. As many atoms as there are,
As many atoms as there are,
in the 1,000,000,000 worlds,
in the 1,000,000,000 worlds,
so many times I make reverent salutation
so many times I make reverent salutation
to all the Buddhas of the 3 eras,
to all the Buddhas of the 3 eras,
to the Dharma,
to the Dharma,
and to the excellent community.
and to the excellent community.
I pay homage to all the shrines
I pay homage to all the shrines
and places in which the Bodhisattvas have been.
and places in which the Bodhisattvas have been.
I make profound obeisance to the teachers
I make profound obeisance to the teachers
and those to whom respectful salutation is due.
and those to whom respectful salutation is due.
Going for refuge. This very day,
This very day,
I go for my refuge
I go for my refuge
to the powerful protectors,
to the powerful protectors,
whose purpose is to guard the universe,
whose purpose is to guard the universe,
the mighty conquerors who overcome suffering everywhere.
the mighty conquerors who overcome suffering everywhere.
Wholeheartedly also I take my refuge
Wholeheartedly also I take my refuge.
in the Dharma they have ascertained,
In the Dharma they have ascertained,
which is the abode of security against the rounds of rebirth.
which is the abode of security against the rounds of rebirth.
Likewise in the host of bodhisattvas,
Likewise in the host of bodhisattvas,
I take my refuge.
I take my refuge.
Namo tassa
Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranam gacchami, Dhammang saranam gacchami, Sanghang saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang saranam gacchami, Tatyampi Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Tatyampi Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Anatikata Verami Sekapadam Samadhyami. Adinadana Verami Sekapadam Samadhyami. Kamesu Mechachara Verami Sekapadam Samadhyami. Musarada Verami Sekapadam Samadhyami. Suramerya Maja Amadatana Verami Sekapadam Samadhyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. With deeds of loving kindness, I purify my body. With open-handed generosity, I purify my body. With stillness, simplicity, and contentment, I purify my body. With truthful communication, I purify my speech. With mindfulness clear and radiant, I purify my mind.
Confession of faults. The evil that I have heaped up
The evil that I have heaped up
through my ignorance and foolishness,
through my ignorance and foolishness,
evil in the world of everyday experience,
evil in the world of everyday experience,
as well as evil in understanding and intelligence,
as well as evil in understanding and intelligence.
all that I acknowledge to the protectors,
All that I acknowledge to the protectors,
standing before them, with hands raised in reverence,
with hands raised in reverence,
and terrified of suffering. I pay salutations again and again.
I pay salutations again and again.
May the leaders receive this kindly,
May the leaders receive this kindly,
just as it is with its many faults.
just as it is with its many faults.
What is not good, O protectors,
What is not good, O protectors,
I shall not do again.
I shall not do again.
Rejoicing in merit. I rejoice with delight
I rejoice with delight
in the good done by all beings,
in the good done by all beings,
through which they obtain rest,
through which they obtain rest,
with the end of suffering.
with the end of suffering.
May those who have suffered be happy.
May those who have suffered be happy.
I rejoice in the release of beings,
I rejoice in the release of beings,
from the sufferings of the rounds of existence.
from the sufferings of the rounds of existence.
I rejoice in the nature of the Bodhisattva
I rejoice in the nature of the Bodhisattva
and the Buddha,
and the Buddha,
who are protectors.
who are protectors.
I rejoice in the arising of the will to enlightenment
I rejoice in the arising of the will to enlightenment,
and the teaching,
and the teaching,
those oceans that bring happiness to all beings,
those oceans that bring happiness to all beings,
and are the abode of welfare of all beings.
and are the abode of welfare of all beings.
Entreaty and supplication. Saluting them with folded hands,
saluting them with folded hands.
I entreat the Buddhas in all the quarters.
I entreat the Buddhas in all the quarters.
May they make shine the lamp of the Dharma.
May they make shine the lamp of the Dharma.
For those wandering in the suffering of delusion.
For those wandering in the suffering of delusion.
With hands folded in reverence.
With hands folded in reverence.
I implore the conquerors desiring to enter nirvana.
I implore the conquerors desiring to enter nirvana.
May they remain here for endless ages.
May they remain here for endless ages.
So that life in this world does not grow dark.
So that life in this world does not grow dark.
Then, wandering by stages, the Blessed One came at length to Benares, to the deer park at Isipatana, where the bhikkhus of the group of 5 were. They saw him coming in the distance. Then they agreed amongst themselves, "Friends, here comes the monk Gautama, who became self-indulgent, who gave up the struggle and reverted to luxury. We ought not to pay homage to him, or rise up for him, or receive his bowl and outer robe. Still, a seat can be made ready. Let him sit down if he likes." But as soon as the Blessed One approached, they found themselves unable to keep their pact. One went to meet him and took his bowl and outer robe. Another prepared a seat. Another set out water, footstool, and towel. The Blessed One sat down on the seat prepared and washed his feet. They addressed him by name and as friend. When this was said, he told them, "Bhikkhus, do not address a perfect one by name and as friend. A perfect one is accomplished and fully enlightened. Listen, bhikkhus, the deathless has been attained. I shall instruct you. I shall teach you the law. By practicing as you are instructed, you will, by realizing it yourselves here and now through direct knowledge, enter upon and abide in that supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from their house life into homelessness." Then the bhikkhus of the group of 5 said, "Friend Gautama, even with the hardship, privation and mortification that you practiced, you achieved no distinction higher than the human state, worthy of a noble one's knowledge and vision. Since you are now self-indulgent and have given up the struggle and reverted to luxury, how will you have achieved any such distinction?" Then the Blessed One told the bhikkhus of the group of 5, "A perfect one is not self-indulgent. He has not given up the struggle. He has not reverted to luxury. A perfect one is accomplished and fully enlightened. Listen, bhikkhus, the deathless has been attained. I shall instruct you. I shall teach you the law. By practicing as you are instructed, you will, by realizing it yourselves here and now through direct knowledge, enter upon and abide in that supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from the house life into homelessness." A second time, the bhikkhus of the group of 5 said the same thing to him, and a second time he gave them the same answer. A third time they said the same thing. When this was said, he asked them, "Bhikkhus, have you ever known me speak like this before?" "No, Lord." "A perfect one is accomplished, fully enlightened. Listen, bhikkhus, the deathless has been attained. I shall instruct you. I shall teach you the law. By practicing as you are instructed, you will, by realizing it yourselves here and now, through direct knowledge, enter upon and dwell in that supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from their house life into homelessness. The Blessed One was able to convince them. They heard the Blessed One. They listened and opened their hearts to knowledge.
The Heart Sutra. The Bodhisattva of compassion,
when he meditated deeply, saw the emptiness of all five skandhas, and sundered the bonds that caused him suffering. Here then, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is only emptiness, emptiness only form. Feeling, thought and choice, consciousness itself, are the same as this. All things are by nature void. They are not born or destroyed, nor are they stained or pure, nor do they wax or wane. So, in emptiness, no form, no feeling, thought or choice, nor is there consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No colour, sound, smell, taste, touch, or what the mind takes hold of, nor even act of sensing. No ignorance or end of it, nor all that comes of ignorance. No withering, no death, no end of them. Nor is there pain or cause of pain, or ceasing pain, or noble path to lead from pain. Not even wisdom to attain. Attainment too is emptiness. So know that the Bodhisattva, holding to nothing whatever, but dwelling in prajna wisdom, is freed of delusive hindrance, rid of the fear bred by it, and reaches clearest nirvana. All Buddhas of past and present, Buddhas of future time, using this prajna wisdom, come to full and perfect vision. Hear then the great Dharani, the radiant peerless mantra, the prajna paramita, whose words allay all pain. Hear and believe its truth. Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhiswaha. Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhiswaha. Gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhiswaha.
transference of merit and self-surrender. May the merit gained in my acting thus go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings.
Go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings.
My personality throughout my existences.
my personality throughout my existences,
my possessions,
and
my merit in all three ways.
my merit in all three ways.
I give up without regard to myself,
I give up without regard to myself,
for the benefit of all beings,
for the benefit of all beings,
just as the earth and other elements
just as the earth and other
are
elements
serviceable in many ways
are serviceable in many ways
to the infinite number of beings
to the infinite number of beings
inhabiting limitless space.
inhabiting limitless space.
So may I become
So may I become
that which maintains all beings,
that which maintains all beings,
situated throughout space,
situated throughout space,
so long as all have not attained
so long as all have not attained
to peace.
to peace.
Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. 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 Om
Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum.
Arapajanadihi.
Om Arapajanadihi.
Om Arapajanadihi.
Om Arapajanadihi.
Om Vajrapani Hum.
Om Vajrapani Om.
Om Vajrapani Hum.
Om Vajrapani Om.
Om Vajrapani Hum.
Om Vajrapani Om.
Om Tare.
Om Tare.
Tare.
Tu Tare.
Ture.
Ture.
Swaha.
Swaha.
Om Tare.
Om Tare.
Tare.
Tu Tare.
Ture.
Ture.
Swaha.
Swaha.
Om Tare.
Om Tare.
Tare.
Tu Tare.
Ture.
Ture.
Swaha.
Swaha.
Om Amideva Hri.
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 Om Muni Muni.
Om Muni Muni.
Maha Muni.
Mahamuni.
Shakya Muni.
Shakya Muni.
Swaha.
Swaha.
Om Muni Muni.
Om Muni Muni.
Maha Muni.
Mahamuni.
Shakya Muni.
Shakya Muni.
Swaha.
Swaha.
Om Muni Muni.
Om Muni Muni.
Maha Muni.
Mahamuni.
Shakya Muni.
Shakya Muni.
Swaha.
Swaha.
Om Mahum.
Om Ahom.
Vajra Guru Padma.
Vajra Guru Padma.
Siddhi Hum.
Siddhi Om.
Om Mahum.
Om Ahom.
Vajra Guru Padma.
Vajra Guru Padma.
Siddhi Hum.
Siddhi Om.
Om Mahum.
Om Ahom.
Vajra Guru Padma.
Vajra Guru Padma.
Siddhi Hum.
Siddhi Om.
Gate Gate.
Gate Gate.
Aragate.
Aragate.
Arasangate.
Arasangate.
Bodhi Swaha.
Bodhi Swaha.
Gate Gate.
Gate Gate.
Aragate.
Aragate.
Arasangate.
Arasangate.
Bodhi Swaha.
Bodhi Swaha.
Gate Gate.
Gate Gate.
Aragate.
Aragate.
Arasangate.
Arasangate.
Bodhi Swaha.
Bodhi Swaha.
Om Shanti.